Hello and welcome to Elvenhome, and to this edition, which concentrates very much on the build of the hotel, taking it to its completion and onto the layout by the end of it. That's been quite a long build. It's been great fun to do, but there's not much by way of an introduction here, just to get straight on to doing that. So I'll speak to you again right at the end of the video. Well, here you can see the hotel. I've completed now the work of putting in the film and tint so that you can't see into the building, but I can put lights on inside. And you can see that some of the windows are blacked out where I've used the masking paint to paint over those windows. And when the lights go off inside the building, because of the tint, everything then goes to be dark, which is really rather good, which is what I wanted. In this video, I'm hoping to bring this to the conclusion of the hotel being completely built, because the major construction work is over now. I want to talk a little bit about how I'm going to construct the roof so you can see it before I build it, and we'll see if it works. The remaining things to do is really around constructing the roof and fitting that, putting in all the lights that need to go in and feeding them through the base of the hotel and then through the baseboard and getting it onto the layout. And some exterior detail, I do want to put some downpipes in to take the water from the roof down. There aren't many other external pipes because, as I've said before, all the internal plumbing goes in through central services down through the walls and down out through the bottom of the building. What I'm going to do is just adjust slightly so I can show you where I've got to. Oh no, there is one other thing that I must do, which is to tell you what has happened to the fire escape. In my last video I asked for comments about whether it should be painted all black or whether it should be some kind of galvanized steel colour rather than just the grey primer that was on. But in reply to my video, Captain of Morgan suggested that he didn't think that galvanizing would have been that common, and although they would have, most fire escapes would have been painted black, he thought that a high-class hotel would maintain their colour scheme, which would be a form of green. And indeed, only yesterday, Nat Gardner commented that he thought a dark green for the fire escape would be rather good. So I thought I would give it a go, in that I would paint the frame green, and if I didn't like it, because I was going to spray paint it all anyway, it would be very easy to overcome. And so I can now reveal for you the fire escape, which is indeed now painted in the same green as the window frames. It looks a bit darker, I think probably because the grey primer that was underneath. The others were primed, but maybe there was more primer on this, I don't know, but that's come out quite well. I've done the landings as all black. That's a flat black, a Tamiya flat black. I painted the railings and the side rails all in the green. I left the steps, the primer grey, as much for practicality as anything else. It was very difficult to get to the handrails, let alone get to the individual steps. And I thought that I would just end up smudging other colours. So that now goes on, and as you can see, when you put it against, it goes rather well, and you'll see when it's finished. It sits against a wall that has a lot of green against it, the light green against it, so it matches that very well. And actually I think it's really brought out the various details of the fire escape. So what I'll do is I'll just rearrange things so I can show you where I've got to at the moment with the roof, and then I'll go off and build the roof, and then we can get on with other things. But I'll just rearrange things and come back in just a short while. Right, this is just a fairly quick section just to talk about how I'm intending to build the roof. I talked a little while ago about it possibly being in two pieces, and then I thought to myself, I'm sure I can manage to do this in one, and started having a go trying to do it in one piece. And here you can see as far as I got, that sort of sits on there, a bit like that. But the more I started working on this, the more I thought, actually, that's trying to be a bit too clever. Getting it all to fit and to line up, and also remembering that I need to be able to take the piece at the back out in the event that I need to get into it. It just really wasn't working very well. So I abandoned that idea and went back to the idea of having it in two pieces. And I'll show you where I've got to. This, I've decided to use the foam board. I think this is 3mm foam board, which does give me a little bit of problem with light bleed, but I'll come back to that. Yesterday I spent some time trying to work out how it was all going to work. So I've cut the first bit of foam board. This bit will sit at the front, and this will be permanently attached. So once that's in place, it won't be coming off. This bit at the back needs to be able to slide out or come out or lift off or do something to enable me to remove the section at the back here that gives me access in the event that I need to change any of the lights internally. I've used, as I used for the fire station, the scale model scenery asphalt, and I'll put a link in the comments below which one it is that I'm using, which works really well as a roof material. I will be putting things on top. I need, for example, about here, if you can just see, there will need to be the winding house for the lift, which obviously comes up from the back here. And I'll want something down the middle here to help cut out light bleed between where the two pieces join. There'll probably be, I think, what I will probably do is put two pieces underneath here. The second piece will sit over the top, and on that piece I'll have a border that runs the whole length to cut out light bleed. When I used, if I put this on, I don't know whether you'll see the light bleed, but when I put the lights on, it shows up more on the piece that doesn't have a piece of paper on. There is definitely light coming through the ceiling, and for that, because this I've had with plasterboard in the foam board in the past, if you get it too wet it just warps. I'm going to coat the inside with some very thin tin foil, and that should be enough to cut out the light bleed. The thing that I'm working on now is how to edge the front of this to give it a look as though it's got some kind of parapet. And I've decided to make use of some channel. I can't remember what this is, something like 6.5mm channel. Because it's stripped styrene, it's actually all in imperial sizes, and I haven't got the piece of the packet with me. What I did yesterday was starting to work out how I was going to fit channel so that it gives me the idea of a parapet. So I've made up the first piece to fit on the front, and as you'll see, this sits in the bottom of the channel so that sits flush on the bottom, and that gives me quite a nice wall effect and parapet effect for the top. And what I've been slowly doing is cutting out all the other pieces so that they fit. Some of these don't stick on. So I'm going to put all of these together. Now some of them on the corners here, there's going to be some small gaps. And once I've got them all stuck on, I'll cut everything so it's all fitted, paint them all up with primer, then stick them on here, and then fill the gaps. I've got some liquid putty or even filler that exist, and then I can paint it in the green colour so that it's the same colour as the rest of the building. I don't think I'll have too much problems painting that on the inside. The insides here I'm probably going to leave just the grey primer. I might see about sticking some brick paper in there, or maybe even, I suppose I could, I might paint those up before I put them on with some green, thinking about it, so that you're not seeing, obviously it's not going to be left white. Grey probably wouldn't be right, but we'll see. I'll come to that when I get that far, because although I have now cut out the pieces to fit on here, if they'll all go on. So you're getting an idea of what it'll look like, and then that one slots in there. I've now got to do the same to get around that corner. And then I can get all that primed. This I think I'm going to cut long enough, and I have cut long enough, so that this one will slide in, and I'll find some way of wedging that down once it's in. I'll have to think how I'm going to do that, but I'll find some way of doing it, so that it sits snugly and holds down onto the model, so that we don't end up with light bleed from the roof. So that's where I am with the roof. I'm now going to go away and do all this work, and I'll come back once I've got it all on the model and painted up, because you can see what I'm going to be doing. But it is a case of where I've got joins and things, making sure that they're filled and then smoothed off, and then I can put the final coat of paint on to complete the roof, and that first section will be stuck firmly down. And when I do that, I will then also need to put the lights in for this section, which will be quite good, because then we'll be able to see the people in there quite properly as I intended it to be. So I'll come back when all that work is done. Well, as you can see, the roof is now almost finished. It's about 90% there. And I thought I'd come back and talk you through this part before I get on and do what will be the final bits of work. The remaining bits of work to be done, the lights have to be fitted in, the downpipes have to go on. I want to fabricate a canopy to sit out the front here over the doorway. And there are some guardrails on their way to me from N Brass Locos, which I want to fit on the walkways at the top here, because this walkway here is going back. I'm hoping to be able to get a ladder that will drop down to the fire escape, so that there is a means of escape for people on the top floors if they're at the front of the building, up onto the roof and then down the fire escape in the normal way. But to talk you through what I've done in terms of the roof, you've just seen the construction of this, which is just some Lego bits, just painted up to provide a kind of winding house top and a roof access at the same time. I mean, that's just a little painted door, but actually you're never going to see that, because when it sits on the layout it will be sitting there, so you're not going to see that very often. But the build of the roof was, as I described in the previous one. These are the individual pieces that were cut. Once they were all stuck on, I then used some filler to fill in the gaps, and then painted them. Obviously, I painted them on the model, actually, because that was much easier, because I was using, around here there are some very thin sections that were needed just to close a gap, so it was much easier to do all that on the model than not. And you may be able to see that I've put some brick paper on the inside here to suggest that these are indeed brick, or there is at least a brick course there somewhere. And that again is just using the Excel spreadsheet to create the brick paper and to put that in. It looks fine for effect. The roof is in two parts, as I said it was. Let me just show you how this works. This walkway comes out completely. This is the one that will link up to a ladder going down onto the fire escape. That allows this to slide back, and then I can lift it up to take it out. There we go. And then this then slides out from in there, and that then allows me to remove this section as well. Oh, I'd forgotten. I used 2 pieces of blue tack because when I push this in, it was pulling that back and out from the 2 side pieces, which is not the idea at all. And I'd forgotten that the blue tack was there, which is why this has not come out. So you just fold the blue tack back, and then that slides out. And that will have obviously some lights on the back, and that will give me access to the model. So all of that has gone pretty well. I'm really pleased with that. I'm now going to get on and fit the lights and do the other work that needs doing, and I'll come back when all that's done. Well, here you can see the completed hotel. It's now got its name, the Rivendell Hotel. I think I said in an earlier one I'd intended the bar that was going to be in the bottom right-hand corner was going to be called the Rivendell Bar. Well, in fact, I decided that would be the name of the hotel, in keeping with the general theme of the layout and where the place names come from. I'll take some photographs of the back and put them up at this point. The first, you'll see the fire escape is fixed, the lamps are all on and working, or except one, which only this morning has decided to stop working after I finished and got everything finally together, ready to get it on the layout. I think what I'm going to do is just live with that, because I could buy another lamp. They come in pairs and change it and fit it, but equally I think I can just model it on the basis that the repairman is due to come round and replace the faulty bulb that has caused the problem. If and when I need to do any other changes to this model, I'll replace that lamp at the same time. But I don't think it matters having one floor which is a bit dark. I'll also put up just here a picture zeroing on the ladder, the escape ladder that comes down from the roof onto the main fire escape. I was obviously wanting a ladder which had the handrails at the top, which you normally see on these kinds of fire escapes. And although you will remember on the fire station, I bought a caged ladder from PD Models. This was such a short section, I really couldn't bring myself to buy a caged model and then cut 2/3 of it off and throw it away. So this is an ordinary brass etch ladder, again from PD Models, one of their standard ladder ranges. And as you'll see from the image, which I'll pop back up again now, I've bent the ladder at the top to form a triangle shape, and then cut out the rungs of the ladder that I didn't need, and that's given me the handrails for the top of the ladder. So I'm quite pleased with the way that's come out, and generally with the top, with the walkway that's now in place to allow people to escape on the roof. The handrails up there are really mainly for people escaping, rather than workmen and the rest, who would be expected to be a little more careful when they're morrising around the roof. So I'll just show you now the wiring, which you can see going off to the left if I pan round. Looks worse than it is, actually. In the end, because I am using these port sharing devices, which allow you, there are 4 plugs, sockets on here for plugs, which is just a normal light hub. There are 4 sockets in a port sharing device, and of course that means you can have up to 16 lamps off of one of these. In an earlier video I'd bought an expansion hub and all sorts of things before someone very kindly told me about the port sharing devices, and I can't, as I'm recording this, remember who it is, but I'll search back and find out who it is and pop the name up just now as a thank you to them, because this means that all my lamps now are working off of one light hub, which makes life a lot simpler. It looks much worse than it is. The hole in the baseboard is big enough for all the plugs to go through. I'll have to take them out the port sharing device, and all of this will sit underneath. So the thing to do now is to get it down onto the layout so it can start getting used to its new home, and then that will pretty much bring the video to an end. So I'll talk to you again in just a moment once we've got this on the layout. Well, here you can see the hotel now in its place where it will stay. Really pleased to have finished this. I can't remember when I first started working seriously on this, thinking about it. I think it may have been as long ago as March. You may feel it's been longer. But this, as the thing evolved, this was what was in my mind's eye when I still had it all as bits of white card and lots of strip styrene. But it's all come together. It's all in place now. The next thing for me to do will be some scenic work around the outside to bed it in a bit more. There's some pathway to go to extend the pathway between where the market stall is up to the roadway that goes up the side of the fire station. But this is good. There's more light going in that corner, which is really quite good. And so that really much brings this video to a close. Thank you if you've got all the way through the video, particularly if you've been following this build, which I've had great fun doing. It's really taxed my brain at times, but I just enjoy scratch building so much. And when I look at that corner of the layout, if I just move slightly to the side, and I look at that whole section from the war memorial to the fire station and then to the hotel, that's all scratch built, and I'm really pleased. That gives a kind of uniqueness to the layout, which the Metcalfe kits, great though they are, there's a bit of uniformity in that everybody tends to have those. So I'm hoping to put another video up at the end of this week, about Friday or Saturday, just before Christmas. There's one or two things with some trains running, because there's not been much in the way of trains running, but I'm really pleased to have got this scratch build out of the way. If you've liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. That's always very helpful. If you haven't subscribed before, well then please do subscribe. It'd be great to have you along, and hit the bell notification so you'll know when I'm uploading. And don't forget to let me have your comments, because I really do enjoy the comments, and they've been so helpful. I mean, the whole idea for this build came from a comment to move away from a Victorian hotel to something a bit more Art Deco, and that's what I did. So please do let me have your comments. But until I speak to you again in about a week's time, that's bye-bye from me. Bye-bye.